This podcast is a member of the King of Wrestling Radio. Go to kowradio.weebly.com for more.
That's the one thing about our audience. They always want a new guy to break through the glass ceiling.
And all you have to do is just be real.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the jabroni-beating, pie-eating, trailblazing, eyebrow-raising, talking is done, you're out of your class, no sleep till Brooklyn, The Rock whips your ass. Woo!
I wish you and King would quit talking.
Welcome to Around the Ring, episode 24 for today, Monday, July 6, 2015. I'm your host, Dave Brown. Hope everyone had a great 4th of July weekend. For those of you here in the United States celebrating our Independence Day, and I had a pretty uneventful weekend. Did go see some fireworks. It was kind of nice though, and went to dinner at the in-laws' house. Had a really good time with the family. We got some great stuff to talk about this week in wrestling. A whole lot of good stuff happened. Just most of it wasn't on WWE television, at least not on the main roster. So, you know what, let's just start with the bad so I can get this out of the way. We're definitely going to be talking about the Beast in the East special and Finn Balor and Kevin Owens match and all that. But let me get through what was basically the worst of the week. And the worst thing this week was by far, leaps and bounds, Monday Night Raw. So here's my opening note, and I was actually a good boy this week at taking notes as I go along. This opening segment is like watching paint dry, and I fast forwarded through a lot of it. Jesus, this is awful. Seriously, what the fuck is this? You know, and this was, if I remember correctly, this was that just ridiculous segment where Seth Rollins was giving J&J security and Kane a bunch of presents. It was just awful, and it went on for like 20 minutes. And you know, I in all of these wrestling shows that I watch, because one, I love wrestling, and two, because I do the show, I do end up fast forwarding through a lot. I think I fast forwarded through more of Raw than I actually watched. There's the Big Show and Mark Henry. No, I did not watch that. And then one thing that really cracked me up in that Miz Ryback match, where Miz just ran and the match was called at a 4 count. At what point did we have countouts at the count of 4? The only other thing, I mean, there were a few things. Let's see, what else was bad? The whole Lana, Dolph Ziggler, Rusev segment was god-awful. Ziggler is a lot better than this, and there's tons of reports, one way or another, whether he's re-signed or hasn't. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I don't know. It's almost like trying to figure, listening to George Lucas talk about what he really intended for Star Wars all these years. It's been all over the place. So if his punishment is this god-awful crap with Lana, then, he deserves it. I don't know. The best part of that whole thing was as Lana was talking, the crowd chanting what? And I know there are some people out there that hate that chant. I kind of like it when it's done well, when it's, used well. And this was a case of that chant being used extremely well. And just telling Lana basically to shut the hell up because no one cares. And this whole, Dolph and I are now a couple, blah, who cares? Who cares? So that was awful. And then at one point the announcers are going on and on about some stupid crap, who knows, and Bray Wyatt cut them off. And my note there was, thank you, Bray Wyatt, for cutting off the announcers. That made me giddy when that happened. And it's funny, and I'm going to talk about the announcing when we get to Beast in the East, but just a contrast, listening to Raw, and then listening to Beast in the East and knowing that it is 2/3 of the same announce team and the night and day difference between those two events. But we'll get to Beast in the East in a little bit because I've got a lot of praise for that. The things really in this Raw to take away, Dean Ambrose is way more over than Roman Reigns. And unfortunately, we had another main event with the same 5 guys. It's so boring. There was the good part of the main event was the part where Roman Reigns just went basically apeshit and just tore everybody down. That part was great. Though earlier in the night he had a segment backstage, and it was him and Ambrose, if I'm not mistaken, and he said rage, and the way he said it I couldn't help but think of Alex Riley, and Alex Riley doing his old rage thing. And I'm guessing that, okay, so one of two things has happened. Either they just used the word rage because Roman Reigns is always supposed to be angry, or this was a cheap shot at Alex Riley for some things Alex Riley said on Twitter. Alex Riley ripped into Tough Enough, saying, why are they spending $2 million looking for new talent when they've got me right here? Well, Alex, I'm sorry, but maybe it's because I'm sure you're a super nice guy. You're not very impressive in the ring. You're not very good on the microphone. And you were an awful announcer. So that's probably why they're not utilizing you. But I suspect that whole thing was a shot at Alex Riley. Now, people would think, well, why would they bother? And so often when you hear about, almost conspiracy-like theories or things where companies or people are trying to do stuff to screw over somebody else, my general rule of thought is to just think, do they care enough to bother? But the WWE is a spiteful bitch, and that is a company that will go out of their way to screw with people. So yes, I think it is absolutely possible and probable that they had Roman Reigns say rage to flip a middle finger off to Alex Riley. I loved seeing other things on Raw. I loved seeing Bo Dallas with the New Day. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that they're together, but it's Bo Dallas and the New Day. Enough said. I mean, they're both fucking awesome. And the one thing in this whole 3 hours of poo that was worth a darn, and it was almost match of the week, was the Cesaro John Cena match. Kevin Owens came out being the awesome heel that he is, teased accepting the John Cena Open Challenge, and then basically said, well, no, I'm not going to do it. We're going to fight a battleground. Maybe it'll be this guy. And out comes Cesaro. And it was a hell of a match. It was a back and forth. It was so good. Why was it so good? Well, to be fair, John Cena has been putting on great matches. This U.S. Open Challenge has been the absolute best thing for his career. And, honestly, for the U.S. title, it's been fantastic. But the real reason why it was so good is because Cesaro. Cesaro's the fucking man. Cesaro needs to be in the main event. Why Cesaro isn't the world champion right now, I don't know. Because he is amazing. And this is the kind of match that will have casual fans saying, wow, that guy's really freaking good. One thing that did crack me up, and I actually retweeted it, I think it was something WWE tweeted about this being a stunning match, referring to John Cena's springboard stunner, which was the only bad part of this match. He botched that move so bad. I'm truly surprised we didn't get a "you fucked up" chant. But when I reposted that, I said, yeah, stunningly awful, maybe. Because that stunner was just, he's got to stop. I appreciate the fact that he is trying to add new moves to his repertoire, and he's trying to make it more interesting, so he's not just these 5 moves of doom. I really appreciate that. That's good. That's going a long way to make him a more interesting character. But that springboard stunner is awful. He has a hard time hitting it. It's got to be a hard move to do well, and even when he does it really well, it looks terrible. And this one was just awful. I mean, Cesaro sold it because Cesaro is just that freaking good. The match ended up in a no finish. Cesaro, at a couple points, there was a couple of these great moments where he was in an STF, he reversed it into a sharpshooter, and he has an armband on that says Tyson Kidd, which is great. And then he did the Cesaro swing into a sharpshooter, and I think Cena was about to lose, and then Kevin Owens interfered and said, "Hey, if anyone's taking this championship, it's me." And that was the best part of Raw. Everything else in Raw really was suck. So that was good. If you did not see that match from last Monday, go out of your way to find it, because it really is good. Let's jump on to see what else we going to talk about. I'm leaving Beast in the East for later. So let's talk about some TNA. So TNA I guess it would have been, they had their Slammiversary pay-per-view. I guess it would have been last week. Yeah, it was last Sunday, so we actually already talked about that a little bit. And then they had these TNA's fucked up, is what it is. They tape things in really strange order. They decide to do this pay-per-view, which they never should have done, because I'm sure about 4 people bought it. But they've got these tapings all in these strange orders, and this week's show is what should have really been the pay-per-view. And again, kind of like with Raw, I fast-forwarded through a lot of the episode for a few reasons. One, I really hate the 6-sided ring. It drives me to distraction. The announcing team, I really don't like. Josh Matthews sucks, and I don't know who he's with. I'm just thankful it's not Mike Tenay, because that guy's voice is like nails on a chalkboard to me. I think his voice is quite possibly more annoying than Mark Levin's, and I really hate Mark Levin's voice. But I fast-forwarded through most of the episode. There were some really good moments in the Rising Beatdown Clan match, and they're really positioning Drew Galloway as a big babyface, and I think that's great. He was criminally misused in WWE, and he's another one of these guys who's gotten away from WWE, and his career has really taken off. He's wrestling in Europe, and he's doing really well in TNA. He's one of the bright spots in TNA. His promos are great. His matches are really good. So there were some really good moments. The stipulation on this match was it was an elimination 6-man tag match, and whichever team lost had to disband. Well, the Beatdown Clan won. And this was also the Beatdown Clan was sporting Hernandez, who's also from Lucha Underground, which admittedly I was confused this week. He was also on Lucha Underground, but they also tape way far in advance. He's got some weird chest tattoos, so I liked when he would just come out on Lucha Underground. He would come out in jean shorts and a wife beater, and that looked cool. And then his tights this week on Lucha Underground were just awful. But anyway, so that was a good match. It ended up at the end. It was Galloway against the 3 members of the Beatdown Clan. They eventually won, but I don't see this doing anything bad for him. I mean, he took a huge beating, and he's coming out clean as a great babyface. The Dirty Heels Wolves match, I watched a good part of it. And it was really good. It had some fantastic moments, and had that match been in a 4-sided ring, and I don't know what my deal is with the 6-sided ring, and if anyone out there can help me get past the 6-sided ring, I would really appreciate it, because I would like to watch TNA. They've got some excellent freaking talent. They've got some folks on there that are they're really good, who really should not be in TNA. And I would love to be able to watch more of it, and I just can't. But that match, the Dirty Heels Wolves, was good. The Wolves ended up winning. Austin Aries is leaving TNA. His contract is up. He did not re-sign, so who knows where he'll end up. Samoa Joe did post a picture, I think it was on Instagram, of him with Austin Aries getting coffee, so who knows, maybe Aries is in talks with WWE to join NXT. But yeah, that was a really good match. And then the real reason why I watched this was for the Kurt Angle EC3 match. The match, and I didn't fast forward through this, the match started out slow. And one thing I didn't know is EC3's finishing move, which he calls the 1%, is basically the early version of Dirty Deeds that Dean Ambrose used. And I like that. I think it's a cool move. And then Tyrus uses a version of Big E's Big Ending, which is kind of a lame move. This was a really good match. EC3 is really good. The crowd was super into it, which really helped. And the match was a whole lot. It was really good. I kind of got the feeling that it should have been better. I know Kurt Angle's really hurt. He's got a benign tumor in his neck that is going to be removed. And Kurt Angle, bless his heart, he has beaten himself up for years doing this stuff in WWE and TNA. And yeah, he's to the point he needs to retire. He really needs to retire. And interestingly, he apparently, in an interview, made a comment about how he would love his retirement match to be against Daniel Bryan. That would be a dream match. That really would. But, overall, this match was good. But I got the feeling like it should have been better. And I'm not that familiar with EC3. He's great on the mic. His presence is incredible. And he's not bad in the ring. He's not fantastic. But he's definitely, pretty darn good. Just as an example, the Cena-Cesaro match on Raw was way better. But this was good. And, I really wanted to see this. I knew EC3 was winning. He's one of the real successes that TNA has had over the last few years. And it's also very possible that he could be their final champion. We'll see. So my kind of overall thoughts, because I don't know how much I'm going to be able to sit through TNA, but my overall thoughts in this episode are, and this is what I wrote down: EC3, the Wolves, Bobby Roode, and Austin Aries all should be in Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, New Japan, or NXT. They are being wasted in TNA, and that is something I completely believe. I would also throw Eric Young in there. Poor Eric Young. He is almost TNA's Sting. He's almost to TNA what Sting was to WCW. He is this loyal holdout. He's probably going to be there until the end. And it's a shame because he's way better than TNA. My other thoughts on this, the announcing really comes off as low rent. It is really bad. And the show feels like it really is in its last run. It's coming to a close. This is like getting ready to end it, and that's what the whole thing feels like. And it's sad because I don't want these people to lose their jobs, and the wrestling world needs more organizations. They need more organizations, more good wrestling on TV. The more good wrestling there is on TV, the better. Because the more options people have to watch other than Monday Night Raw, the better. So TNA, about to go under, it sucks, and it's awful. But they've run a piss poor ship the entire time, and what can you say? I mean, they've just screwed the pooch on this thing big time. A couple other real quick TNA things. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, a magazine I remember fondly from my youth, has dropped the TNA title from its official listing of recognized world titles. So this is kind of a big deal, and it's kind of not. It's a big deal in that TNA is basically being downgraded. Now, I looked on Pro Wrestling Illustrated's website today to see if they have a list of what championships they recognize as world titles, and I couldn't find it. So if anyone out there knows where that list is, send it to me in email or tweet it to me. That would be great, because I would like to see what they recognize as world titles. When I think of kind of world titles, the major titles going around today, I think of, well, obviously the WWE World Heavyweight title, the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title, the IWGP Heavyweight title, the AAA Mega title, the Lucha Underground World title, and even the NXT title. Those are kind of what I see as the major titles. So, yeah, and TNA, and you have to put TNA in there. So to see the TNA title be dropped by one of the long time major publications is kind of sad. But not as sad as something stupid one of the TNA executives said. Apparently, and I can't remember which one it was, but there was an executive doing an interview, and he had mentioned that a number of times over the years, TNA has reached out to Ring of Honor to see about doing some cross-promotion things, and Ring of Honor has always turned them down. And so this executive said, well, wouldn't it be something if we just started signing up their unsigned talent? Maybe, or start basically saying they're going to go in and pull their talent. And my reaction to that is, who in their right mind is going to leave Ring of Honor for TNA? Of all of the talent that Ring of Honor has, and the flexibility that you have working for Ring of Honor, why would you leave for TNA, for an organization that is dying? And if you ever have aspirations of going WWE, it's really hard to get that TNA stink off of you. They are not they don't want to have anything to do with TNA talent, which is a freaking crime considering the talent, as I mentioned earlier, that TNA has. So it's really sad. I mean, that this guy would think, oh, well, we'll just sign up this talent. Like, who the hell is going to go? You think you're sure as hell not going to get Jay Lethal. He's in a better position than he was. You're not going to get Moose, even though Moose is going over to Global Force Wrestling. You're not going to get the Young Bucks. You're not going to get anybody you're just not. You're not going to get Cedric Alexander. None of them. Caprice Coleman. Nope. The Addiction. No, you already got rid of those guys. You're not going to get the Kingdom, the Decade. Hell, even BJ Whitmer, who I really can't stand, is not going to go to TNA. Why? Because TNA is a sinking ship, and Ring of Honor is still on the uptake. And this was something that Jim Ross mentioned at some point, that Ring of Honor has had this philosophy of slow and steady wins the race. And you know what? They're right. Slow and steady does win the race. They have gone slowly and steadily. They've had slow and steady growth over the last 13 years. And they've done it right. And Ring of Honor is a promotion that keeps, one, churning out top talent, and two, has a buzz to it. And now, with them being on Destination America, they have that combined with all of the Sinclair stations across the country that they show and their shows on in syndication. They're all over the place, and they're easily the number 2 company in this country right now. So yeah, the idea that Ring of Honor talent would jump to TNA is just laughable. Hell, I mean, TNA is having a hard time paying their people, so why would you go there? You know, the only logical reason really to go to TNA would be as if they offered, you know, a big fat check. But considering they're having a hard time paying their people, it's not a reason to go. And so since we're talking about TNA, or Ring of Honor, let's go ahead and jump right into Ring of Honor this week. This was a highlights episode of some of their War of the World shows that they had with New Japan, I think earlier in the month or last month in Philadelphia. So, and again, I'm guilty of fast-forwarding through some stuff. Okada was hugely over in his match, but really what you need to watch in this is the Adam Cole AJ Styles match. This match was incredible. Pay-per-view quality. You know, this is almost match of the week. This is the second best match of the week. And the third best match is going to be the Cena Cesaro. But this match was phenomenal. And of course, I mean, it's Adam Cole and AJ Styles, for fuck's sake. You know it's going to be great. So at the beginning of the match, AJ Styles put out his hand for the Code of Honor, and Adam Cole just spit in it, and that was just such a great heel move. There was a moment where Adam Cole did a wheelbarrow onto AJ Styles and threw him onto the apron, and that looked like it sucked. Let's see. There was a moment where I want to think. I think it's not Kevin Kelly, it's the other guy. Steve Corino, if I'm not mistaken, is in love with Adam Cole. And he has this moment where he said, the smartness, the genius, the sexiness. And it was hilarious. It was just absolutely hilarious. There was another great moment. Adam Cole hit a Styles Clash on AJ Styles for a near fall. That was great. Styles hit a Bloody Sunday on the ring apron that looked brutal. AJ Styles ended up winning the match. It was just a phenomenal match. Seriously, go out of your way to find this match because it was great. And this begs the question, why aren't these guys in WWE? If WWE is supposed to be the cream of the crop, if it is supposed to be, you know, the flagship, the end-all and be-all of professional wrestling or sports entertainment, why don't you have two of the best guys in the world on your roster? Because you're freaking stupid, that's why. So that was freaking incredible. Go out of your way to see that second best match of the week. And so far in this week, if we're keeping count, we've had two top-notch pay-per-view quality matches. Cesaro versus John Cena on Raw, and Adam Cole against AJ Styles on Ring of Honor this week. And let's see here. Let's go ahead and real quick, we're going to talk about Lucha Underground before we get into NXT and then Beast from the East, or Beast in the East. Lucha Underground this week was pretty good. Wasn't great. The opening bout was Tejano versus Daivari, or whatever his name is. You know, and this feud wasn't very good. The match wasn't great. Daivari's not that great. The best thing in this whole match was the commentary. At one point, Vampiro says, called him Daivari Jabroni, and that made me laugh. That was quite funny. Then we had Hernandez and Drago in a match. That was pretty good. I mean, Hernandez is an imposing looking guy. He looks great. These tights he's wearing were god-awful. But really what stood out in this match was another comment from Vampiro, which was, what's he doing, brother? And that's prison love. What's he doing, brother? That's prison love. Hilarious. Cracked me up. I love this team of Matt Striker and Vampiro. They are each and every week on spot, on fire. Then we had the ring announcer lady, whose name I cannot remember, standing in the ring announcing Marty the Moth, and he's standing right behind her. He's done this a few times, where he's like, he has his face right on her shoulder, and he's doing his little moth thing, and she looks so annoyed. I mean, she just looks so irritated, and it is hilarious. He went against Alberto El Patron in it was a squash. And it was probably the first squash match I've ever seen on Lucha Underground. And it was great. It was so much fun. Watching Alberto El Patron destroy Marty the Moth was awesome. And, Marty the Moth is really playing this kind of squash role really well. He's basically a jobber. He actually has some talent. He's able to get some good moves on with people, but for the most part, he is a loser. And he's good at it. He is really, really good at it. So, hats off to Marty the Moth for being an annoying little bitch, basically. And then the main event was Chavo Guerrero Jr. against Prince Puma. And Vampiro was on fire this week. There's stipulations in this match, no disqualification. But if Conan interferes, Chavo immediately wins the title. So there was a backstage segment at one point where you see Conan talking to someone who's off screen. That comes into play later. So Conan's walking around the ring and comes over to the announce desk, and Vampiro and Conan apparently just don't like each other, at least in character. And Vampiro's telling him to go away, and at one point he calls Conan up. He says, "You're a pain in the ass." I laughed so hard. It was great. This was actually a pretty good match. Prince Puma is fantastic. I've never been a fan of Chavo, but he did a great job in this match. It was good. There was the crew came out, was doing some beatdowns on Puma, and then Tejano rushed out and interfered and helped save Puma. Puma got the win. So I guess this is setting up a Tejano Chavo feud, which I'm okay with. But Prince Puma is fantastic. So again, I have to ask the question, why isn't Puma, aka Ricochet, in NXT? Why? This guy is amazing. So far, in every single non-WWE show that I've watched this last week, has had a number of guys who should be not just in NXT, but in the WWE, on the main roster, because they could be killing it, and they're not, because WWE is stupid. And in the case of Ricochet, he tried out, and they passed on him. Why? Why would you do that? But okay, so now let's head on to NXT. So the highlights from NXT this week are there's a segment with Bull Dempsey backstage in his singlet, which just makes him look so sad, beating on a vending machine. And these people are looking at him like, what's wrong? And what's his name? William Regal comes up to him and stops him and sees that there is, some chocolate on his mouth, and says, "You've got to get yourself together, otherwise I'm going to, and you're not going to enjoy the consequences." And Dempsey then just stares angrily at the vending machine. That's actually, I've got a picture of that in the graphic for this week's episode. It's absolutely hilarious. I've truly hated Bull Dempsey since he showed up, but this stuff is great. Turning him into a comedy character and is going to make him such a huge babyface, and it was just, it's great. I look forward to the Bull Dempsey segments now on NXT. I really do. Let's see what else. Let's go back up here to my notes. The third part of the Finn Balor documentary was great, and also then they took the 3 parts and put them together into a 30-minute long documentary, which you can watch on the network, which I did, and it's phenomenal. It is really, really good. And one thing the WWE does really, really well are these documentaries, and this one was great. The best part, though, to me, was when they were talking about Balor's debut on NXT. They actually showed that segment that we got, that when it originally happened, someone filmed it on their phone, and it made around the internet, but when the episode aired, they did not show it. The original graphic displayed Prince Devitt before he walked out. So the setup was, for those of you who don't remember or may not have seen it, Hideo Itami was feuding with the Ascension, and the week before, he said, "You know what? I'm sick of these 2-on-1 attacks. Next week I won't be alone. I'm bringing someone." And so Itami comes out, and then this new music hits, and on the screen it says Prince Devitt, and the crowd goes freaking bonkers. I mean, they lose their shit. And then it morphs into Finn Balor, and his music hits, and he walks out, and it's just incredible. And they go, and that was one of those really freaking awesome moments, because what was cool is, it was WWE acknowledging this guy's past and saying, look, we know we're going to call him something else, but we also know that you know who this is. And that was a great moment. That should have been on TV, but it wasn't. Then the main event this week was Finn Balor and Samoa Joe against Kevin Owens and Rhino. Pretty good tag team match, really. It was setting up the Beast in the East match between Balor and Owens. One of the best chants of the night was Chinlock City, because Kevin Owens kept putting Balor in a chinlock. And so at one point the crowd, instead of Suplex City, was chanting Chinlock City. Pretty funny stuff. Then there was a moment where Kevin Owens was in the corner, and Finn Balor does a drop kick into Rhino, knocking Rhino into the corner. And Kevin Owens was sitting, so his head was basically at the middle turnbuckle, and he got a face full of Rhino butt. Face full of Rhino butt. That's gotta suck. Balor eventually hit Owens with the coup de grace. It was great. He went up to the top rope, did a motion like he's gonna, for the belt, jumps off, nails it, gets the pin, big celebration, perfectly setting up the early Saturday morning Beast in the East event. And so we've talked about everything else that happened this week. Let's get on to the best thing that happened this week, and I'll rank all the shows when we're done. But the best thing this week was by far Beast in the East. Now, I'm not including the New Japan Dominion pay-per-view from yesterday, because I haven't seen it, and I've tried to find it some online to watch, and I can't find it. So if anyone out there has a link to it that you can send me, I would really appreciate it, because I really want to see it. But let's go on to Beast in the East. Now, there were a couple of dark matches. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the Cesaro-Diego match, which I kind of wanted to see just because of Cesaro. And also the New Day and Lucha Dragons had a match, which we didn't get to see. So my first initial thought is I loved the set. Because what this all started out originally was going to be a house show in Japan. And then Brock Lesnar was going to be in Japan anyway, so he went ahead and decided to do a match there. And then there was going to be the NXT Championship match, which I think they were going to air on the network no matter what, just the NXT match. But they turned it into an event, into a network special. So they're using the set from house shows. And this was great. I loved that it was different. The problem so much with WWE events is that they constantly use the Raw set. And I know why they do it. It's cheaper to just have one set. That I understand. But the pay-per-views, Raw, they all look exactly the same. And this looked different. It looked like... It just looked completely different. And the way it was filmed, actually, and this was something else I thought was interesting, the film quality, and it was still super high quality, but it looked like a New Japan show in just the way that, and it's hard to explain, kind of like, if you've ever seen a soap opera, soap operas are filmed in a certain way, and they look very different. Their film quality looks very different than, say, another regular TV show or movie. New Japan looks very different than WWE or really any of the American wrestling shows. So I liked that. I liked that this looked like a New Japan show. And it looked cool. So the show started out with Neville and Chris Jericho. Michael Cole did make a stupid remark, the up-and-coming Neville. He's about as up-and-coming as John Cena. He's just new to WWE. That got on my nerves. Some other cool things is during this match, Cole talked about how Neville had worked in Japan, worked for Dragon Gate. He also name-dropped the organization in Japan that Chris Jericho had worked for, which I can't remember off the top of my head. This was a fantastic match. Jericho really, really did a good job. He won. I thought Neville should have won, but I'm okay with Jericho winning. Apparently, it's his last show. He's been doing these run of house shows. He did this tour in Japan. Some people think it might even be his last, match in Japan. So letting him go out on top was fine, and he did. My brain just stopped working. He won with the Walls of Jericho, but he actually locked it in the way he used to, so it was kind of the old-fashioned WCW era vintage, and that was cool. That was really neat. Jericho busted out a lot of stuff. It was funny. Jericho wrestled the match kind of as a heel at times and kind of as a babyface at times, but it was really cool. And so here, actually, because I'm staring at my notes real quick, and I just had I'm gonna put this in my final thoughts. Sorry. I'm rearranging things as I go along. Sorry about this, folks. So yeah, that was fun. Then we had Paige, Tamina, and Nikki Bella, 3-way match for the Divas title. They tried hard. I agree with Solid Monster there. The spot calling in this match was awful. I mean, it was worse. It was almost worse than John Cena. The match went did it go like 10 minutes or something? Nikki Bella won. That's about all you need to know. Then we had the match that the show is named for: Kofi Kingston against Brock Lesnar. Kofi came out by himself. I was kind of surprised the New Day didn't come out. Lesnar came out with no Paul Heyman, no pyro. Just went, so when he did his whole thing, when he comes out, normally there's boom and pyro, and he got smoke being blown out, which sounded very different. So yeah, this match was all of 3 minutes. It had a bunch of German suplexes before Lesnar finally hit an F5. Kofi did get a lot of offense on. He knocked Lesnar to his feet at one point after a drop kick of some kind, or knocked him to his knee. But for the most part, Lesnar just no-sold everything. And then Lesnar ended it. Was leaving the ring, comes back in, hits Kofi with another German suplex. The New Day runs out. He destroys them, hit them both with F5s, and that was it. It was, honestly, this was the best squash match I've ever seen. So this week, we not only had 3 pay-per-view main event caliber matches, we also had 2 of the best squash matches I've ever seen in my life. 1, the Alberto El Patron Marty the Moth match, and 2, Kofi Kingston against Brock Lesnar. So much freaking fun. The thing, WWE needs more Brock Lesnar. I mean, I know keeping him away for long periods of time makes him special, but he is so much fun to watch. Then we come up to the what I think is the best match of the week. Kevin Owens versus Finn Balor for the NXT Championship. Why this wasn't the main event, I don't know. Oh, I forgot something. During the Brock Lesnar match, Michael Cole acknowledged, they actually talked about Lesnar's New Japan reign, stint, and mentioned that he was at one point the IWGP champion. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, that was... my brain just stopped working because I was trying to do too many things at once. So back to Finn Balor and Kevin Owens. My first thought is, why isn't this the main event? So the match started, or the Balor comes out full demon, and he has on the back he has painted Oni, which is a demon from Japanese mythology and folklore, and he also had written in Japanese on like one on the front, one on the back, and basically it said Demon Prince. My brain's stopping to work. During the match, they acknowledged the Prince Devitt name. They talked about the various different titles in New Japan that Finn Balor held, which was great. But when the match, before the match started, we have 2 ladies in full, I think they're kimonos, full traditional Japanese dress. And in Japan, and for title matches, apparently it's tradition that each participant is given a bouquet of flowers. Kevin Owens took his flowers and just threw them out of the ring. It was such a great heel move. And just, Kevin Owens is so good. There's so many things he did in this match that were great. And then there were the announcements, and the ring got covered in streamers. And there's like a Vine or short Instagram videos of this, as the ring just gets just covered in streamers, kind of like they do in Ring of Honor, but times 100. And it was unbelievable, and it was for Finn Balor, and he just got drenched in them, and it was such a great visual. But poor WWE crews have no idea how to get that stuff out of the ring, whereas in Ring of Honor, they have that down to a science. Not so much with WWE. And something else I really liked about the paint is the paint was kind of reminiscent of some of his old New Japan paint that Balor used. But the match itself was incredible. Kevin Owens did some great stuff in the match to just really F with the crowd. He talked smack to the crowd. At one point, Finn Balor was sitting on the mat, and Kevin Owens did a thing where he ran the ropes and looked like he was going to run to kick him. And he ran the ropes, stopped, dropped down, and put Finn Balor in a chin lock. And it was so freaking great because, the crowd's getting ready. Oh, he's going to hit him with something hard. Boom, boom, boom. boom, just stops. And people are like, "Oh, really?" And Kevin Owens just screams, "I do what I want." And he's like, I don't. And it said something along the lines of, "I hate this country and I hate you." It was just so good. In a way, it's kind of almost hard to talk about how good it was because it was that good. Because I just sound like I'm sitting here saying, "Holy crap, this was good," because holy crap, this was good. The entire match was phenomenal. Just match of the year contender, should have been a main event. And there was Finn Balor hit Bloody Sunday, and it ended up taking 2 coup de grace to win, but he finally did win, and the place went ballistic. I mean, they just unbelievable, and it was so good. And then Ben, at the end of the match, Kevin Owens stayed in the ring for a little while. Balor offered him his hand for a handshake, and Kevin just looked mad and just basically stormed off. It was fan-fucking-tastic. And then we had... so that match ends, and I remember thinking, I feel really bad for whoever has to follow this up. Really, really bad. And then, guess what happens? Bad News Barrett music hits. And my first thought was, what? And then Kane's music hits. And I'm really like, what the fuck is this? Bad News Barrett and Kane? And then we get Dolph Ziggler's music. And then we get John Cena's music. And so here is my note. This is seriously the main event. Gross. Good things in this. Ziggler was wearing 3 different vests. And it was hilarious. And this was apparently this is a pretty typical house show main event, because that's what this was. And there were so many people in this crowd that were decked out in Raw or in John Cena gear, and there were actually a lot of people like that were cosplaying. There was somebody was dressed like Simon Gotch, which was great. But yeah, the Japanese fans, my hat's off to them. They go all out. But you know what? The match is all right. I didn't fast forward through it. This was the only show. I think I fast forwarded through a little bit of the Divas match, but otherwise this was the only show I really didn't fast forward through. I enjoyed the entire thing. The main event ended with Ziggler and Cena winning. Of course, babyfaces have to win in house shows, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, that match was what it was, but there was a backstage segment moment that was filmed. It wasn't even a segment, where Finn Balor, after he won and was backstage, he's greeted by Cesaro, who gives him a hug, and Neville, and gives him a hug. Eventually John Cena comes over, shakes Balor's hand, says that was a great match, awesome job, and then leaves for his match. But it got me thinking, when they bring up Finn Balor to the main roster, he needs to start a stable. You could almost do a Bullet Club-esque stable. And it needs to be, preferably 4 guys, but it needs to be him, Cesaro, and Neville. Those need to be the 3 ones. We could have Tyson Kidd in there. That would be great. You could have Sami Zayn be part of it. You could have Hideo Itami be part of it. You could have, I think they would be best as a babyface group. So I think, Tyler Breeze might not work, but, Zayn would definitely work, but I think Zayn kind of should be by himself. But you could do the three of them, Balor, Cesaro, and Neville. I think that would be an awesome stable, and WWE needs to make it happen when they bring Finn Balor up to the main roster. I just think that would be great. But that was a cool moment. Seeing the three of them together is really what made me think of that. Thinking, these guys, all three of these guys are freaking awesome. Why not make them a stable? And that would be fantastic. So my overall thoughts on this show was, one, it was just fantastic. Two, they need to film more house shows and put them on the network. Seeing a show in that environment was great, and I know that the talent does things in house shows that they can't really do otherwise. So I think that would be fantastic. I loved that there were no replays during the match, that all the replays happened after the match. I also loved that there wasn't all of the annoying flashbacks to Raw and SmackDown that happen every week, and there weren't even flashbacks to what previously happened in the night, with the exception of at the very end of the show, as Cena and Ziggler are leaving, raising their hands. They did do a flashback one last time to Finn Balor standing at the entrance holding up the NXT title. But you know what was surprisingly good? The announcing. Byron Saxton and Michael Cole did a phenomenal job. It's amazing. You don't have Vince McMahon screaming in your ear, and you don't have JBL next to you being a jackass, and the announcing is great. It actually shows how talented and how really honestly good Michael Cole can be. Take the restrictions off him. Don't make him freaking plug the network or hashtag, which, I mean, they did talk about hashtags and they talked about Twitter, but it wasn't painfully annoying. Get rid of JBL. In fact, at some point, he and Byron were talking. I forget what what they were exactly saying, but Cole said, "Imagine we get JBL off of Raw." And I wrote in all caps with that followed by many exclamation points, "Yes, please." The announcing was great. My hope is that maybe, and who knows, Vince probably won't see it, but I'm hoping that Triple H sees this and knows that once Vince dies, or we can get him to step away, this is the route we need to go on. If WWE television in general, if Raw was like this special, it really would be the flagship. It would be one of the best things on TV every week as far as wrestling is concerned. Because in my mind, this was the best wrestling program this week. The Finn Balor Kevin Owens match, we're going to talk about best matches of the week. Number 1, Finn Balor and Kevin Owens. Number 2, AJ Styles and Adam Cole. Number 3, John Cena and Cesaro. And so let's sometimes I like to do this. I'm going to rank the shows this week, and this is just right off the top of my head, from best to worst. Number 1, Beast in the East. Number 2, Ring of Honor, for no other reason because of that killer main event. Number 3, NXT. Number 4, I'm actually going to give number 4 to TNA for that main event. You know what? No, what? I'm sorry. Number 4 is going to be Lucha Underground. Number 5 is TNA, but TNA is, and not because it wasn't good, but because Lucha Underground was just that much better. And the worst show of the week was, without a shadow of a doubt, Monday Night Raw. I didn't watch SmackDown, but Monday Night Raw was just really bad. And so yeah, those are my thoughts on the shows this week. Again, the things to really look for. If you didn't watch Beast in the East, watch it. If you don't want to take the time to watch the entire thing, watch the Kofi Lesnar match because it's fun. But seriously, watch the Kevin Owens Finn Balor match. It is amazing. And also, listen to that commentary and just really think real hard about how this is two of the three same people that are on Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw makes me want to put, poke out my eardrums with a pencil. And this show, I thoroughly enjoyed the announcing. So go out of your way to watch Beast in the East. If not, go out of your way to find the Finn Balor Kevin Owens match. Also, you need to watch the Adam Cole AJ Styles match from Ring of Honor this week, and the Cesaro John Cena match from Raw this last week. All three of them. I mean, we're talking pay-per-view main events. All three of them, with the exception of the fuck finish on the Cena Cesaro match. But that's how good these matches were. And finally this week, one last thing to talk about. Rolling Stone magazine put out their Wrestler of the Year so far, and then the Best of the Rest list for WWE. In fact, it's called the Best of the Rest of the Half Year. So let's go over these, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts on them. Wrestler of the Year, they put so far Kevin Owens. I 100% agree. Kevin Owens has been just phenomenal this year. Runner-up wrestler, Roman Reigns. Yeah. So here's the thing with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns got so dumped on at the Royal Rumble because people just didn't want to see it. And then he lost at WrestleMania, which was good for him. And he's been slowly building himself back up. Anytime he works with Dean Ambrose is fantastic. But Dean Ambrose is by far more over. So I would put runner-up Wrestler of the Year as either Dean Ambrose or Seth Rollins. I mean, Seth Rollins cashing in the Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, becoming the champion. That's a big deal. So yeah, that's what I would say on that. So Roman Reigns needs to not win the championship for a while. He just really doesn't. He needs to be, keep him in the main event picture, but Dean Ambrose is the guy who needs to be winning the championship. And really, Reigns needs to have a long feud with Bray Wyatt. And Bray Wyatt needs to win the feud. Because Bray Wyatt needs the win. But Wyatt's, in his promos, is anyone but you. Taunting of Roman Reigns is perfect, because that is what fans have been saying. So yeah, runner-up Wrestler of the Year, I would definitely, it's not Roman Reigns. It would be, I would say, Dean Ambrose, and if not Dean Ambrose, followed by Seth Rollins. Second best heels, they have The New Day. I'm going to wholeheartedly agree with that. They're fantastic. Most unavoidable face turn, Brock Lesnar. Can't argue with that either. The crowd turned him face. Just done. And he's great that way. Most welcome heel turn, they have a tie between Sheamus and Naomi. Naomi as a heel turn was good. And Sheamus really needed to turn heel too. I just kind of think he sucks. Least exciting heel turn, Adam Rose. I have to agree with this. They've really screwed the pooch on Adam Rose. Coming out of that E60 special, they should have turned Adam Rose into a babyface. They should have just used his real character, his personality, and they didn't. They screwed it up. Most improved wrestler, Nikki Bella. I'm actually going to kind of agree with this. She is not awful in the ring. Not like Brie Bella, not like a lot of the other divas. Naomi's not that great, I think. She's very athletic, but she's really not that good. Cameron is just god-awful. Rosa Mendez is a joke. Eva Marie, we'll see after she gets all her training with Brian Kendrick how she turns out. But Nikki Bella has gotten better. Oh, Brie Bella, fucking awful. Silliest promos, Bray Wyatt. The problem with Bray Wyatt's promos have nothing to do with Bray Wyatt and have nothing really to do with his promos. It has to do with the way he's been booked. Bray Wyatt is a hell of a talent, and I think he's really doing great things in this feud with Roman Reigns. But all the blame on Bray Wyatt, that's we got to lay that completely on WWE Creative. Let's see, best promos is a tie, John Cena and Kevin Owens. Okay, I'm going to disagree with John Cena. Granted, John Cena has done some great stuff this year since winning the U.S. title, but he's not the best promo out there. He's better than he was, but he's not the best. Kevin Owens is by far the best promo. Him and Paul Heyman. I would also say that Dean Ambrose does a great promo, and trying to think of who else. But yeah, Kevin Owens, Kevin Owens, Paul Heyman, two best promos. But definitely Kevin Owens is this guy who's come into the main roster, who's come into WWE. He wasn't even in NXT for very long. He's been in wrestling for 15 years, was in Ring of Honor for a very long time. He comes into what's considered the major leagues of professional wrestling, and makes everyone else look foolish. He just makes them look bad. And in fact, you could say that about Finn Balor. You could say that about Sami Zayn. They're making these people look terrible because they're that good. So yeah, Kevin Owens is fantastic. Most improved promos, Ryback. I think I agree with that. Ryback is a really good talker, and when he's done commentary before, he is fantastic. So yeah, I would agree. Worst entrance gimmick on great new main roster wrestler, Neville. So see what I see, and I agree with this because I think they're talking about the cape thing, which is just stupid. Neville's entrance in NXT was fantastic. They really didn't need to change it. But one thing that I'm happy to see, though, is that stupid-ass cape, and it's not hurt Neville. Neville's been booked pretty weak, kind of wishy-washy since he's been on the main roster, but people are still loving the guy. They love his work. Watching him as a joy. He's hella over, and that's because he's just so damn good. So hopefully Creative won't be able to screw him up beyond recognition. Most puzzling new finishers, Seth Rollins with the pedigree. I'm going to agree with this just in the fact that Seth Rollins does a pretty crappy pedigree. Storyline-wise, it kind of makes sense. He works for the Authority. He is the prodigal son of Triple H. So him taking on Triple H's move makes sense. Doing it so shittily, not so much. And I've never really been a fan of the pedigree. I would think he would be able to find something better than the pedigree, but whatever. Most jaw-dropping finisher, Neville's Red Arrow. Agree 100%. That is a fantastic finishing maneuver. Most deserved push, the Primetime Players. Yeah, I would put them in the top 5 to top 10, but honestly I would say New Day's push was much more deserved than the Primetime Players. Least compelling title changer, The Big Show. I don't think he's won any titles this year, but The Big Show's got to go. I mean, he's just got to go. Most stagnated storyline, Rusev versus Dolph Ziggler and Lana. Agreed, that thing sucks. Best briefly resurrected storyline, Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. Also agreed, even though it's still kind of going on. Those two are just great together. Most unfortunate injury, it's a tie between Daniel Bryan and Tyson Kidd. I'm actually going to say Tyson Kidd's is more unfortunate because it was an injury out of nowhere. It was just a complete fuck up. A freak accident, really. Now, Daniel Bryan's is concussion that he suffered in a match with Sheamus. Now, was it because of him headbutting Sheamus? Was it because of him hitting his head, jumping out of the ring at one point? Or was it because of a bro kick from Sheamus? No one knows. And it is definitely unfortunate because he's a hell of a talent, but Tyson Kidd's injury is pretty scary. Best pay-per-view WWE Network exclusive event, WrestleMania. I really enjoy Beast of the East, but yeah, WrestleMania, we'll say that. Actually, you know what? The NXT specials, and if we're talking this year, man, that last one where Sami Zayn won the title at the end of last year was so good. But the NXT specials, you'd almost have to put... I'd almost put them up there with WrestleMania, if not higher. Worst pay-per-view, WWE Network exclusive event. It's a tie between Payback and the Royal Rumble. You know what's sad is I don't remember what the hell happened in Payback. The Royal Rumble was bad because... Oh wait, Payback, I just looked some. It was... Okay, yeah, it was... it had that 4-way match. For the main event, that wasn't awful. That 4-way match was not awful. The way it ended was... I didn't hate that. The problem with the Royal Rumble is the way that they just killed the crowd with the whole Daniel Bryan being eliminated from the Royal Rumble so early. The better booking would have been for it to end up being Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns at the end, with Reigns winning and Bryan going in, shaking his hand, and raising his arm. That would have been a better way to book it, and it would not have it would have helped Reigns get over. In the final category, most gratefully non-future endeavored, Zack Ryder. Yeah, Zack Ryder's not going anywhere. Poor guy. Though, his tag team with the hyped man, Mojo Rawley in NXT is kind of entertaining, sort of, I guess. So that's that list. And that pretty much is going to wrap it up for Around the Ring this week. So one thing I did not mention at the beginning of the show, and I forgot to, wanted to go over some of the places that you can find Around the Ring to listen to, because I made this announcement last week, but I'm actually pretty darn excited about it. So you can check out Around the Ring every week, one at our homepage, aroundtheringok.wordpress.com. On Tuesdays, our new episodes air on Kings of Wrestling Radio, kowradio.weebly.com, and you can, it's Tuesday, 8 o'clock Pacific time, which I can't remember what that is, Central or Eastern off the top of my head. You've then got the podcast section of the Spark Radio Network, or just sparkradionetwork.com/aroundtheringok. You can check us out on Spreaker, and you can check us out on one of our newest location, Stitcher Radio. I was very excited about that. Pretty much all of my favorite shows are on Stitcher. Soul Monster, Sounds Off, Wrestling Soup, my two favorite shows that are out there wrestling-wise. They're on Stitcher, and this is being part of Stitcher is great. I was very excited when I got approved, and so it's a new place for everyone to hear the show. And please give it a listen on the Stitcher, and add the channel to your favorites. And if you like it, go ahead and click the like button or give it a rating. I would really appreciate that. And those are the various different places you can listen to Around the Ring. You can follow us on Twitter at AroundTheRingOK. You can give us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/AroundTheRingOK. Or you can shoot me an email if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions. AroundTheRingOK@gmail.com. I try to use the same handle for everything. And that's going to do it for this week of Around the Ring. Appreciate everyone listening in. Hope you guys have a great week. And like the great Jerry Springer always said, take care of yourselves and each other.
You've been listening to Around the Ring on the Spark Radio Network.
All you have to do is change your point of view.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Damn! Woo!
This sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
What? It's for charity.